Greetings, this is another Sprocket video and today I'm only going to show one vehicle. However, that one vehicle will have 8.5 variants, so this video might end up being quite long. First things first, I would like to give a shout out to the Sprocket Discord server's community member known as Kravmaul, because they are the only reason this video even got to be made, since they provided the Discord server's community members with blueprints which got file edited, and one of their blueprints is this. This thing is quite special because it not only has two tracks, but one of the tracks is actually glitched onto turret, which basically means that you can turn the front basically independently, as long as independent means dependent on the camera position, and it's really buggy as you just saw. So yes, this thing right here is quite unreliable, but I mean it's cool as fuck, so yeah. And you know, I was thinking, can I actually modify the front track independently? Oh wow, it seems like I indeed can. What if I made a half track based on this? And the end result of that was the HGS 102-3 Hyena, which you might actually remember from an older video of mine where I showed the hyena family, at least partially. And yeah, previously the hyena had 3 large wheels at the back, but it was always intended to be a half track, but I mean there was no way of making such a thing way back then. But now, thanks to Kravmaul, I have come up with this thing. So yes, thanks again for providing a cool blueprint. So yeah. Anyway, the main thing with the hyena is that first and foremost, this is a troop carrier, as it is quite obvious looking here. But also, this thing is an infantry support vehicle and an anti-aircraft vehicle, so the hyena is basically purpose-built to be multi-purpose. That does not make a lot of sense, but trust me, it will in a couple minutes. So first things first, in regards to the Hyena 1, I remodeled the 13mm heavy machine gun, which is a completely original design as far as I know. I at least did not use any reference images for the 13mm heavy machine gun. However, the 8mm light machine gun was basically inspired by the 8mm Gebauer machine gun made by Hungary. So yeah, I mean I only really chose this specific model of light machine gun because I like the caliber and it looks kinda cool. And actually both weapons fire. The 13mm has a lower rate of fire, while the 8mm, yeah, it fires very quickly, but it's basically completely useless against most targets. The 13mm, however, this thing is pretty damn good actually. Although the hyena is pretty well armored for what it is. The front is 50mm thick, at least around this area. Here it's 35 actually. The sides are 25mm thick, which is pretty good as far as troop carriers go, because it resists 50 cals, which do have around 22 to 25mm of penetration. So yeah, and the rear, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. And the hyena did a little dance here. So yes, this is the hyena one, and as you can see, the crew back here have quite a lot of toys to play with. They have their Gebauer copies they can play with, and I mean they must have a lot of fun. And also regarding the AI capabilities, the base hyena does not really have a lot of AI power. The gun elevation angles are quite limited, but I mean, this is just the first hyena. Now comes the second one, which it's quite a bit different because it trades 2 passengers for an even better AI capability and quite possibly even better anti-infantry capability, because this thing has 40mm anti-aircraft guns, heavily based on the Bofors, which I believe most people know by now. So yes, this thing also has a custom gun. So yes, this is the Hyena 2, and its previous iteration way back then had a very similar turret, at least in terms of how the front is shaped. However, if we look at the top, it's actually quite different. So here is an image of the previous Hyena 2, and you can see that it's actually open top, which the new Hyena is open top as well, but you have hatches here which you can close to make it closed top whenever you want to. So yes, this thing is technically both at the same time. The rate of fire of the 40mm is, I mean, not that great, but what can you do? It's pretty good for what it is. And the armor penetration is also quite decent. The Hyena 2 can go through its own front. I mean, it's only 50mm, but still, 50mm is not that bad for what this thing is, so yeah. Also, I didn't mention, but the Hyena one is a mid-war design, and the rest are late war designs, and they all weigh somewhere around 20 to 24 tons, and they all share the exact same 310 horsepower engine, which can propel the Hyenas up to around 50 kilometers per hour. Some that weigh more, of course, cannot reach that speed as easily or at all in a certain case, but they are all somewhat mobile on flat ground, because this is actually an idler wheel, and Sprocket does not like it when road wheels are not touching the ground, because something is in the way. So yes, off-road this thing is actually pretty damn atrocious. Trust me, I tested it. Also, this might be a good time to mention that the rear has openable doors for the crew to dismount, and there are hatches here where you can put your stuff if you are an infantryman, and you can even access them from the inside, because I don't know, this just seems like a cool idea. And of course, all the rest of the openable things are openable. These right here, oops, this is actually just a small storage area for the operators of the vehicle. Inside there's not a lot of space, so yeah, I guess that's kinda cool. And as I said, you can technically make this thing an open top through opening the hatches, so yeah, I guess that's it for the Hyena 2. Now let's move on to, take a guess, the Hyena 3. Now, there is a story behind why the front looks like this, and it all happened on the Tank Encyclopedia Discord server, where I leaked all of these vehicles, and I started a discussion about efficient space usage and whatnot, and I've got suggestions for making it a cab-over design or something, and I decided that I will go with the sloped front design as suggested, but it won't be much of an improvement, because fuck you, that's why. And on top of that, I didn't make it a surface vehicle, surface vehicle. Service vehicle. What even is a surface vehicle? I mean, it is a surface vehicle, but... Anyway, so this wing has 4 20mm autocannons, and they can make you very deaf very quickly. Just listen to this. Yeah, it can bug out the sound engine Sprocket uses, but other than that, and disregarding the very different front design, this thing isn't anything special really. It has smoke grenade launchers, very boxy turret which looks like it's stolen from a ship or something, somewhat unusual gun arrangement, and I mean that's it really. It's, as I said, not a really special vehicle, it just exists. Also, the turret armor is quite atrocious. I think it's either 8 or 15mm thick. So yes, it's not very well protected, but I mean, as I said, it is not a service vehicle, it's probably some sort of weird prototype made once and then disregarded as useless by the HGS military, so yeah, that is basically the Hyena 3. Alright, now let's move on to the converted variants, and most of these actually use the Hyena 2 as a base because that's the easiest to convert. However, there's nothing stopping you from using the Hyena 3 as a base for another variant, because the Hyena 3 is essentially just a Hyena 2 with a sloped front in regards to the hull, so you can make any of these variants on the Hyena 3 as well. Anyway, let's start with the tank destroyers, and our first tank destroyer subject is the HGS 10602-3-2-1. That name might sound scary, but it really only boils down to Armored Personnel Carrier Design 3 version 2, so Hyena 2, Tank Destroyer version 1. That's the name of the vehicle, Hyena 2 Tank Destroyer 1. It does not describe the gun it has, which is a 90mm L45, but it doesn't have to. All you have to know is this is the first tank destroyer conversion of the Hyena 2. Now, as I said, this thing has a 90mm L45 gun, and it's interesting because it's actually mounted on a turret, which is quite odd considering the shaping of this thing, and from afar you wouldn't be able to tell that this is a turret, but it indeed is. And here's a funky feature which, if you have seen my previous videos, you probably know that this is possible. It has a recoiling gun breech. This is a feature you will see in a future Hyena variant 2, but I mean, this is just cool. What can I say? So yes, otherwise you might have several questions why a tank destroyer would want to carry infantry when the infantry needs to be close to the battlefield, while the tank destroyer is basically the opposite. It wants to be far away from the battlefield. Don't question it. Please don't question it, you will go insane. Also, this thing has quite a strange sight arrangement, because the sight is actually made of 2 parts. As you can see, there's a static one right here, and one which moves with the gun barrel, and I don't know how this would work in real life. Probably it wouldn't, it would just complicate things, but in my head it means that the gunner can estimate the range a bit better or something. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I'm a tank designer. But yeah, other than that, this is the first tank destroyer variant of the Hyena 2, and the second one isn't that different either. It also has a 90mm gun, although this one is an L60, and it now has a proper rangefinder and it also uses 3 of these 13mm heavy machine guns. And this turret might be quite familiar to you, because I actually featured the vehicle in my previous Sprocket video, which has this exact same turret, and that thing is the 101-5, which, I mean, from afar it looks a bit similar, I'm not going to lie, although this one is more armored, and I mean, it weighs 24.21 tons, while the Hyena 2 Tank Destroyer 2 weighs 26 tons. But also this thing has a much larger hull. So yeah, that's an understandable weight increase. Now the thing with this one is that it's completely impossible by design actually, because the 101-5's turret ring is 2 meters wide. However, basically any other Hyena 2 variant has a 180 centimeters wide turret ring, so 1 meter and 80 centimeters. So this turret would need a turret ring adapter of some sorts in order to fit, but I mean, this is just a stupid idea anyway, so just imagine that this is some kind of a Wunderwaffe drawn onto a napkin by some sort of general who has no idea how tank design works. Yeah, you will see a couple of similar things in this video, because I mean the Hyena 2, well, it can get quite ridiculous, and this is probably one of the more normal usages of the Hyena 2, trust me. Talking about usages, you might think that a tank destroyer with a troop compartment is stupid, but let's meet the artillery versions, and the first one of those is something that looks quite interesting to say the least. So this is actually a service vehicle. This thing entered service. Imagine the situation which led up to that moment. Yeah. Anyway, so this thing has a 155mm howitzer. Its shell trajectory is quite bad for sniping, but I mean, it's an artillery vehicle, so who cares? It has a pretty decent gun elevation to bring out the best out of this 155mm howitzer. And I mean, what can I say? This thing speaks for itself, really. And yes, it has a recoiling gun breech, because that's cool. Now, you do probably have a lot of questions which you probably don't want to hear the answers to, but let me try to answer all of those. Don't think about it. This is my only answer. Why would a troop compartment and a howitzer fit together into one vehicle? I don't know. Don't think about it. Why does an artillery vehicle need a troop compartment which it needs to deliver onto the front lines? I don't know. Don't ask questions. But what gets a gold medal in stupidity is also an artillery version of the Hyena 2. However, this one is a rocket artillery vehicle, and you might ask what happens when the rocket launcher fires forwards. Well, I don't know, the Jacobs back here might enjoy the warmth, I guess. Yeah, when I said don't question the logic behind some of these variants, I meant it. Also, this is a service vehicle, which makes this situation even funnier, and it only has a 45mm gun, because the 205mm rockets don't work in this game. So yes, unfortunate, but I mean, you can still fire relatively quickly. So yes, Katyusha with a troop carrier combined into one abomination. That's all this thing literally is. And how do I aim without an obvious sight? I don't know, don't ask questions. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? This thing is just stupid. I mean, most of the hyena variants I made recently are quite stupid. And by recently I mean these are the last hyena variants, and they increasingly get stupider and stupider, but this must take the cake. Or the gold medal, or however such a saying can go. But the silver medal definitely has to go to the third hyena artillery, which is actually a mortar. This thing has a 205mm mortar with a minimum shell length, which gives it, wait for it, 150 meters per second shell velocity. It is actually really fucking hilarious to watch. Like, look at how the shell flies. I aimed too low. Wait just a couple seconds. Look at how the shell flies. In real life, or in any video game really, this would be unusable. Of course, 205mm of high explosive destruction, yeah, that will hurt. However, look at how close this target is. The shell still has a visible slowness. It still visibly needs to travel. It's not instant by any means. This is actually borderline unusable. I love how stupid this is. Of course, the gun elevation is pretty good, because, as I said, this is technically a mortar and not an artillery piece, but I mean, who cares? This thing is hilarious. What is this shell speed and trajectory? Like, oh my god, this is actually unusable. Look at how far I can shoot. Or how close I can shoot, I should say. And I'm not kidding, this thing does indeed have not even 150, it's even less, and 43mm of penetration. This is comical. So at the beginning of the video I said that I will show you 8.5 hyena variants. And I have very good reasons to say that for the 9th one, which is right behind me actually, because it's unfinished and it will remain unfinished until some changes into the game will be introduced. And I have very good reasons why I want to delay the completion of the 9th one, and I will explain it to you right now. So this is 4th artillery version of the hyena, except this one is made on the hyena one. So this is the hyena one artillery one. Now, it has a 205mm gun. It looks stupid, I know. But here's the problem. You can see how the gun is, right? It's mounted vertically. However, the game does not think so. I'm going to move this point right here. And oh wow, would you look at that, the game thinks that the place the gun breech which is in the game, this thing right here, takes up, is occupied, because I don't know why. So the game calculates the space required for the efficient usage of the gun like this. So the gun is in a horizontal position. However, the actual hitbox of the gun is just limited to the gun. This is why I can do this. Of course, I cheated just a little bit because these cylinders are partially made of cupolas, believe it or not. and anyway, that's besides the point. So in theory I should be able to model the mount right around here, but as I have demonstrated just about now, the game thinks that the space is occupied by a structure, so it doesn't let me make a mount. And look at this disgusting gap. Actually, the 90mm hyena and the 155mm hyena also have such a problem. They also have unnecessarily wide mounts, but each millimeter added to the caliber of the gun makes the required space larger. And yeah, this is the 205mm gun's required space, and I mean, I cannot work with this. I just simply can't. It's unusable. So yes, for now I will not finish the hyenarmageddon, which is a quite funny name, but I mean, it fits. I'll just wait for Hamish to do something about this hitbox issue, because I mean, I want to make normal-ish guns. I know that this is probably something that wouldn't work in real life, but I mean, it's Sprocket and I'm not an engineer, so it does not have to work. It just has to be convincing enough. But otherwise, this could have been finished for this video. I just have given up on this for now, at least. As I said, I will finish it once some mechanics have been changed. So yeah, I guess that's it.